everyone, Rosie here. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing the time and place tag, which thank you so much to Nat from Nerdy Nat Reads for tagging me in this. I'll link her video down below, and I'll also link the original tag video by Jen Campbell. Now this is a really fun tag, I think, because there's no specific questions, and there's not even, as far as I know, a set number of books to talk about. I've chosen to do 5, like Nat did, because I feel like it's a reasonable number. It's enough without making this a super long video, hopefully. So let's get into it. The concept of this tag is basically to talk about books that you really strongly associate with a specific time and place in your life. Big or small, and I've got some of both, I think. I'm going to go through all these books in reverse order of when I read them, so I'm going to talk about the ones that I've read the most recently first and then work back to the oldest one. Because that's the way my Goodreads read shelf was organized when I was scrolling through trying to find books that I thought would be good to talk about for this tag. So the first book I want to talk about is The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle by Stuart Turton. And the premise of this book is that a man wakes up in a country house where there's been a murder, or there's going to be a murder. It's been a little while, so I can't quite remember. But essentially, he wakes up, he has no memory, he has no idea who he is or where he is, but he has to solve this murder. And every day, he wakes up in a different body and has to figure out what's happened by the end of the week. I think it's a week. And all the while, there's mysterious other beings around who are trying to kill him. So this is a fascinating book. I loved it. But I also so much associate this book with a waiting room. Because back last winter, I was doing the evaluation to see if you're an appropriate candidate for laser eye surgery. I clearly decided not to get laser eye surgery, but I was thinking maybe I would, maybe it'd be nice. And I had the morning off work, and essentially I had to do a whole bunch of different tests, so there's a lot of waiting around. And I think I read half the book just sitting in this big waiting room. I think I would have loved this book regardless, but I also just so much remember those two events tied together in my head. The next book I want to talk about is Artemis by Weir, which is about a young woman who lives in a lunar colony, and she's a smuggler. And there's some crime stuff, and I know this is a super divisive book. A lot of people really didn't like it, and honestly, maybe I wouldn't have liked it either. But to explain why I have such a strong connection to this book, even though I can barely remember the plot, I have to back up a few days from before I read it. It's a Sunday. It's August 2018. I have been majorly procrastinating all summer, and it is crunch time. I need to write my master's essay. I've got all the analysis done, I've generated the graphs, I've got the tables, but I have virtually no text. Over Sunday and Monday, I wrote the entirety of my essay, which wasn't that long, maybe 10,000 words or something, but from scratch to written, I was just right, this has got to happen. I've got to finish a draft of this essay before I go on vacation, because I need to get it to my supervisor so that he can review it, so that I can submit it, so that I can finish my master's degree, so that I can get an official letter of offer for the job I'm due to start before the end of the month. So I've got to finish this essay. Then finished it Monday night, awesome, all done, perfect. But now, I also have to move out of my apartment before I go on vacation, because I'm not returning to the town I'm living in. It was a very convoluted series of events in which on Tuesday I packed up my entire apartment, moved all of my possessions to my partner's house. We'd only been together for a couple months at that time, and he very nicely allowed me to put everything I owned in the world, which thankfully did not include furniture, in his apartment. He then moved it to the town we were moving to. So I did all my packing on Tuesday. All day Wednesday was just running around moving all my stuff from my apartment to his apartment, shutting off my internet, dealing with all of that stuff. Thursday, I traveled by bus 2 hours to the airport, and finally Thursday night, sit down on a plane for an overnight flight to Europe to see my parents, and I start reading Artemis. So I'm exhausted, I've had a crazy week, and I never sleep on flights, so I just stayed up all night on this probably 8-hour flight reading this book. And like I said, I don't even remember the plot. I just so strongly remember reading this book and being like, oh I can finally relax. The essay's done, the packing's done, I can take a bit of a break. So this book is forever in my mind just a transatlantic flight. The next book I want to talk about is SPQR. Yes, SPQR, A History of Ancient Rome by Mary Beard, which is, as the title suggests, a history of ancient Rome. It's a massive book. It's a brick. And I don't know if I would have loved this if I had read the paper copy, but I listened to the audiobook it was either late 2016 or early 2017, I can't remember exactly. But I was working on a small free-range egg farm in rural New South Wales in Australia, as you do, and I was spending somewhere between 3 to 6 hours a day standing essentially at a conveyor belt, taking eggs off the conveyor belt as they arrived from the coop, and putting them into trays to be transported. As you can imagine, this was not the most exciting work. I actually really liked that job, but it wasn't like a super mentally stimulating thing, and the first couple weeks you're like, okay, this is great, I'm just with my thoughts, I'm thinking about stuff, and then you start going, oh wait, 20 plus hours with my thoughts every week is too much time. So having some really massive audiobooks that I could listen to while I was working was crucial, and this one was so good. I absolutely adored it. Again, it's a history book, so I don't remember a lot of the details. I just remember so enjoying reading it while working. So the next book actually is very influential in me actually getting to that farm where I was working in rural Australia, and it is The Ukimwi Road, From Kenya to Zimbabwe by Dervla Murphy. And it's a memoir/travel book about a 3,000-mile bike trip that Dervla Murphy, the author, took through Africa in 1992 when she was 60. Which, I hadn't read anything else by her. I think my dad recommended that I pick it up off the shelf at my parents' house. It was the Christmas of my 4th year of university, and I knew I wanted to take a year off before I went to grad school. But I wasn't totally sure what I was gonna do. I wanted to travel, but I wasn't really, sure where I wanted to go or what I wanted to do. And I just so strongly remember sitting in the living room at my parents' place by the fire. It's Christmas, so there's probably good food around, reading this book and just being so inspired by her bravery, which, to be honest, I get sort of annoyed sometimes when people were like, oh my goodness, you're traveling alone as a woman, that's so brave. I'm like, okay, come on, I've got a cell phone, I text my mom 5 times a day, I'm not that brave. This is pretty normal. But to go on a bike trip through rural Africa as a 60-year-old without internet connection is just now that seems brave to me. And so reading about her was really inspiring, and it really gave me the courage to say, hey, I want to do this big trip to Australia. I don't know how it's going to work out. I didn't have a job lined up when I arrived. I didn't have a plan for where I was going to go or what I was going to do, which is very unlike me. I'm very much a planner, but it turned out to be an absolutely amazing year, and I'm so glad that I read this book when I did. Because yeah, like I said, it really gave me that push to say, hey, go have your adventure. Do it. Don't pick a safe thing. Do the exciting thing. I say safe because Australia was perfectly safe. There was absolutely no danger. It was just sort of more out of my comfort zone. The next and final book that I'm going to talk about is Neverwhere by Neil Gaiman, which is the story of a young businessman who finds himself drawn into London's mysterious underworld, both literally, as in there's stuff under the city, and also metaphorically. There's monsters, there's adventure. Honestly, it's been a long time since I read this, so I don't remember the plot too clearly, but I got this book as a Christmas present in 2012 from my parents, and I so clearly remember finishing it, lying in my bed in my parents' house late at night one night, and it was the first book that I logged on Goodreads. So I just have such a strong memory of lying there with the app open on my phone. Side note, I don't think the Goodreads app has changed since 2012. Can anyone confirm or deny? But this was a book that I just read at a really important moment in my journey as a reader. I hadn't really read much in high school. I might have mentioned that on this channel before, I don't know. But yeah, I was in first year of university and I was starting to get back into books. I was starting to get back into reading for fun. And I was starting to discover online book communities. I was starting to watch booktube. I was on Goodreads, logging what I was reading, making some friends. As you can see, it took me a very long time to actually get actively involved in those communities, but I think this book and the subsequent logging on Goodreads and stuff was sort of like the path that started me along to having this channel and being an active participant and not just watching. So that was really cool to remember when I saw that in my Goodreads stream. Because as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh my goodness, yes, so clearly all came back to me. Those are my 5 books that I associate strongly with a time and a place. As always, I'm awkward, I'm bad at this, I'm not gonna tag anyone explicitly because I have so much stress about forgetting to tag someone or tagging the wrong person. I don't know, I'm weird, it gives me stress. But as always, consider yourself tagged. I want to see your videos, I want to see your answers. Leave them down below in the comments. Make a video and tell me about it. I think this is such a cool tag, and I want to know what moments in your lives you associate with what books. If you liked this video, please hit the like button, and if you would like to see more of me reading, and hopefully more books that I will associate with this era in my life, please hit the subscribe button down below, and thank you for watching!